Welcome to episode 77 of The Leap Home. Lee Harvey Oswald Part 2.
In this week's episode, Sam continues to leap along the lifeline of Lee Harvey Oswald, learning about his attempt to defect to the Soviet Union, his attempt to commit suicide, and his attempt to execute General Walker. Once these failures pass, it comes down to one day in Dallas in November 1963 as Al fights to stop Sam pulling the trigger and murdering the president. With his friend buried deep in Oswald's mind, can Al get through? Or will he have to watch Sam become an assassin?
Then I plug. What the hell's a plug?
Who cares what it is? Hell, I'm not gonna do it.
Good afternoon, Ian.
How are you doing, Jerry?
I'm plugging away.
Well, Oswald's diary reminded me of your introductions.
My introductions?
Just random words that don't make sense.
That offends me.
Deeply?
Yes.
What was your favourite introduction?
The one with the thing.
Oh, okay. They went all in on the score for this part.
Oh, yeah.
Heavy duty. It's like, oh, here's how you're going to feel.
Yep.
Keep feeling it.
They've done a good job in making Lee Harvey Oswald not the most annoying or despicable or hard to understand.
Yeah, well, last week they set him up as this sort of pariah figure, but then this week it's like, no, actually, he's quite reasonable in most of his views.
Yeah. I find myself being quite taken with him. I think I could be, if he was there trying to encourage me to join his movement, I would be persuaded.
I don't see why not. He seems to have some good points to make.
Do you know, also I was thinking, you don't really hear of him referred to as LHO.
No.
But you think you would. You know, JFK.
Well, there's lots of Kennedys though. There's only one Oswald.
But it's for shorthand. Everyone does sort of.
Well, LHO is more syllables than Oswald.
Even when they write it down, it's always.
Yeah, it's true. Because
if I said to you before we discussed this a few months back, I said, LHO, what does that mean? You wouldn't go, oh, that's Lee Harvey Oswald.
What is Harvey? Is it a surname? Is it a first name?
Don't know. No, I think it'll be
if it's a middle name, why is it used?
Some people do.
He used it.
Not sure.
He didn't even use Lee. He used the other name.
It's a mystery. It's one of the great mysteries of the whole subject.
We'll identify this guy definitively by using this additional name.
It might be that sometimes these things happen that it's first reported by a newspaper and they call them that and it just sticks.
Yeah, it could be. Absolutely could be.
Anyhow.
Talking of just sticking, let's get the social media stuff stuck to the front of the podcast. We are, as usual, at Leap Home Podcast on Twitter, on Facebook, etc. Show notes at theleaphome.com. Every episode 1 week early over on our YouTube channel, Columbo Podcast Productions. Please like, subscribe, and hit that little bell for notifications. That would be greatly appreciated.
Anything you want to say before we begin?
Nothing.
Let's crack on.
So the start of this episode was clumsy, I thought, but there's a reason, obviously, for it. Yeah,
I mean, we've got the intro, we've got the new theme with the credits, and a part one recap. I mentioned last week, I don't think that 2-part episodes are often necessary, and this one did seem, again, very bloated. I think we're about 6 minutes into it before we get any new content.
Well, yeah, I wrote down brief recap, but it wasn't brief at all. It kept going, and we get the same photo montage that we'd seen previously, and we get the same ominous music.
Which is quite good, because I'm looking at the timer going, that cuts away quite a lot of the note-taking required, or the watching.
Anything down. And not only that, we start, unusually, in 1999.
Yeah, 15th of February at Stallions Gate.
Lee is upset that Al won't explain to him how leaping works. Now, this scene might have made sense in the middle of a 2-part, or a 1 hour long episode, rather. But as the start of a second, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't work for me.
Oswald's quite abrasive.
Yeah, we've not spent much time with him. So I think what they're trying to show here is that the process is mutual. So it's not just that Sam is struggling to keep Oswald out of his head. Oswald is struggling to keep Sam out of his.
Al attempts to explain what's going on, I think, and starts by asking him what string theory is.
Yeah, so why is he asking him this? Is he trying to test how much of Sam is in this?
I think so.
And Lee surprises himself by reciting in Sam's voice the details of string theory and the relationship between quantum physics and regular physics.
Indeed, before snapping quickly back to his own persona and asking how he knew this.
Yes. We've been through this sort of thing last week when he knew Al's name.
From 1999, we go back in time to 1959, the 21st of October. And where are we?
We're at the KGB headquarters. We saw this briefly at the end of the first part where Oswald, or Sam, is giving up state secrets in relation to the race car U2 project.
Yeah, apparently the purpose of it is to spy on China and Russia. He's shown a picture of the plane and he asks the KGB man where he got it from. And with a smirk, he's told from a friend and is asked if he also has friends. Obviously friends with big mouths.
Indeed. Al shows up and is outraged as Sam begins spilling all this sensitive data.
Yeah, he's obviously quite anxious about this fact. And we should say that there is this female assistant, note taker, secretary, whoever it is, standing there. And I think Oswald says, when asked about friends, he says he doesn't even have a girlfriend. So this is 59. So this before he met Marina?
Yes.
Okay.
So he finishes talking and it seems that the Russians still haven't found what they're looking for because they ask him to write down all of this information.
Yeah, Al is still agitated. He's yelling at him for him to stop, to not divulge anything else. And when he's given this, I think it's a pen and a pad, Sam begins to write things down, but is told, no, you can hand it over, do this later. You can do it tonight at a hotel. You're going to have an escort with you.
A tourist.
A tour?
Tour. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they called them, but yeah, he's recommended to go to a particular restaurant and try the venison and mushroom stew.
Yeah, I think her name, it's a guide, her name's Rima.
Yeah, we never see her.
No. The KGB guy then tells him to wait in the other room, and as he leaves, the assistant tells her boss that Sam must be lying, as the technical claims seem impossible, but he disagrees.
Well, it's not so much that he disagrees, he thinks they already have more information than Sam or Lee had access to. This is a common line that's taken, so a lot of the time people who are trying to play down Oswald's importance and point out why there wouldn't be a conspiracy take the line that he had no information that was valuable to the Russians, and this is just a way of playing that out on screen here. They've got him telling them about this plane, and it turns out they already knew not only all he knows but more.
Sure. In the corridor, Sam walks with Al, apparently still under the influence of Oswald, before coming back to his senses.
Yeah, I've written it down that he's walking in a strange leftist way.
But he decides to have an open conversation in front of some guards.
Oh, yeah. They see him talking to thin air, and they approach menacingly. We should say that Sam kind of snaps out of it when he walks through Al.
Yes. He manages to cover for this by claiming that he was just thinking aloud, and then goes on to admit to Al that he told the KGB everything he knew about the U2.
He does. One of the guards actually says to him that his grandmother also talks to herself, but she is 83, which prompts him to take no additional precautions as he just continues talking to Al. He is worried that the information he provided was maybe used later when Gary Powers' U2 was shot down, but Al says Ziggy's pretty sure that you didn't give them anything they didn't already know. And
the Powers incident was a lucky shot. No just more than that. Yeah. Relieved, he wants to know why he is in Russia. And of course, Ziggy doesn't know, but Al thinks that it has to do with with the conspiracy to assassinate JFK.
Yeah, so in this episode in particular, Al plays the role of what Belisario sees as the reasonable man.
Yeah.
Who starts out not sure what really happened. Maybe it was these conspiracies, but by the end is disabused of that notion and believes they're all nonsense.
Sam points out that they have found nothing yet to support this theory, and he needs to take the initiative rather than just leap around all over the place.
Yep, Al again tries to make this point that we got annoyed about a couple of weeks ago, or at the end of last season, I think it would be now, that success and leaping are not connected. Yeah. But I think in this episode in particular, he must surely have no idea what's causing the leaps. He keeps going back and forward.
Of course. In any case, Al agrees that Sam has to be more proactive, but he doesn't have a plan of his own.
Oh, you're not becoming Oswald again, are you?
I don't actually become Oswald. I just sort of drift along next to him and his thoughts come out.
Oh, you're not drifting, are you?
No, I'm theorizing. Or trying to.
Oh, sorry.
I was just thinking, though, what if I prematurely exited that first leap into Oswald?
The one where Marina took your picture?
Yeah. What if I leaped out before I had a chance to put right what once went wrong?
Well, success doesn't have anything to do with leaping.
Listen, I said before I had a chance to undo the wrong.
Well, why would you leap before you had it?
Well, if I knew that, I'd know how to get off this leaping yo-yo so that I could do whatever it was I was supposed to do in the first place.
You would just
Stop the
this.
assassination, right? Well, that's it.
Sam, Ziggy says you're on the right track. It's just going to take time to test your hypothesis, but you should continue and play this scenario out.
Oh, look, I got a big choice.
Oh, wait, I didn't finish. But you got to play it out just the way Oswald did. No changing history.
Okay, so tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Well, you go to your hotel room.
Yeah.
And then before you have dinner with your in-tourist guide, you commit suicide.
I mean, that's what you should do every time he leaps into a bad guy. Just commit suicide straight away.
Sorts of. We've never had an answer for that, have we? If he dies, we don't know what would happen to Sam.
Well, we've seen the one where he got electrocuted and he leapt.
Yeah, but he leapt as he was being electrocuted.
Yeah, so we don't know what would happen to Sam, but it may just be that he would leap as soon as
Yeah,
that
but you
person...
see, that's if the leap objective was for that to happen, then that might be the trigger.
Yeah, it could be. We just don't know.
But if it wasn't, if you just get knocked down in the leap...
I suspect they're not going to find this out.
No.
At any point in this season. What happens if we kill off our main character? Oh, no.
So we find ourselves now at the Hotel Berlin. I think it's the same date.
Later the same day, yep.
And for some reason, Al tells Sam that Ziggy wants him to do exactly the same thing that Oswald originally did, so i.e. Kill himself.
Well, I've got an issue with this.
Okay.
So they're getting this information from Oswald's diary, but Sam's not writing the diary.
No, but they would have
that
access...
diary doesn't exist now. As soon as Sam doesn't write it, it no longer exists in the future.
No, I don't. No, I disagree with that, because all the information comes from like police reports and things.
Yeah, but the specific diary was written on the night by Oswald. And Sam's not done it. He's not written the diary. He's being Oswald that night.
Yeah, but they're looking at the original timeline.
Yes, so in his timeline, yes, but surely Sam should also be doing what Oswald originally did and writing the diary entry.
Stop complicating things, Ian.
Okay. Anyhow, Al looks into some scenarios because they're concerned that history might have been changed. Sam's worried that he's going to try and kill himself and the woman that originally saved Lee won't be there because something's happened that makes it different. Yeah,
he's not just worried about that, he's worried about the fact that he has to kill himself.
Yeah, he thinks it might hurt.
Yeah. But Al doesn't see that there's a problem with this attempt because he didn't die. He was saved by the tourist guide.
Yeah.
Oh, is her name Olga?
Well,
I said Rima.
Yeah, Lee calls her Olga, but they're not sure if it's the same woman or not. They're not entirely clear here.
Right, okay. Yeah, because Sam remembers that the KGB guy referred to her as Rima.
Yeah.
And Al points out that Sam described her as Olga in his, or Oswald did in the diary.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Al runs the scenario to find out what would happen if Sam doesn't try to kill himself here.
And what happens?
It means he would then be expelled from Russia that night or the next morning and would never meet Marina.
Why would he be expelled?
Because his visa's up and...
It's quite a technical question.
They have no use for him. So obviously it was the suicide attempt that's led to his stay in Russia being extended in the first place, which ultimately leads to him meeting his wife.
Now, Sam thinks this blows a hole in Al's KGB conspiracy, but he responds by claiming that it would support his CIA theory.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of thought put into either position here.
No.
It's just a standard thing, this is contradictory. Blah.
In any case, they argue about what the significance is, and Sam tries to look at the simpler and more likely scenario whereby, at 19, Oswald was not a KGB or a CIA agent and was just a frustrated loser. And I think, that's where my thinking lies. There's lots of these types around today. You look at the whack jobs, who go into schools with guns, theatres, do all sorts of, public acts of heinous criminality. And a lot of those are empowered and encouraged by social media and the dark web forums and the QAnons and all this sort of the politics and the news that they hear today. But back then, it wasn't quite as prevalent because there was a lack of the social interaction at a grand scale. So I don't think it's unreasonable that you just have these whack jobs again. You look at, you had what's his name, Chapman, that killed Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
You had the guy who tried to kill Reagan for Jodie Foster. These were just whack jobs. There doesn't have to be a grand conspiracy around it. And if we look at, we're talking about they're leaping from the KGB to the CIA. We know for a fact with all these, you've got the KGB. What are the most common theories here? You've got KGB, you've got the Mafia, you've got the CIA, you've got the Cubans. Never got FBI. Yeah.
Hoover hated the Kennedys.
Okay, yeah. Then you've got the Teamsters and all this type of stuff.
Secret Service.
Service. So there's at least 7 or 8 of the
and then you've got the official lone gunman theory.
Right. Everything but one is wrong. So we know that most of these, or the majority of these conspiracies, are all nonsense. It's just as easy, or just as likely to be the lone gunman theory. And I think what happens is that, a bit like in politics today, people will say things, Trump will say something, it won't be questioned, it'll be repeated. These days it happens on social media, it becomes fact. So you get things like, this crazy bullet, or this couldn't have happened, or it's impossible, or he was a terrible marksman, he couldn't have made that shot, or the shot was impossible unless you were the elite. And these things become fact, but they're not. There's plenty of, you can just be disproven. It's sorry, I'm ranting here, but I think there's nothing to suggest it wasn't a whack job. And I think what Al says at the end of the episode is true. And this is one of the main points that sort of people use to refute conspiracies. People love, as human beings, we love to think that everything is controlled and it must be a conspiracy. There must be something. We can't bring down the president by one whack job. It must have been bigger than that. There must have been powerful forces at work. And it's like, nah, sometimes things just happen.
Yeah, maybe.
Where were we? Maybe. What's your theory? I think it was lone gunman. I don't think, but don't get me wrong, I'm not naive enough to think that these organisations wouldn't want to, or couldn't if they did want to. But that doesn't mean they say that they did. Yep. And also, sorry, and I'm going to continue here. I'll let you have your say in a second. A little bit like, and we discussed it earlier on. I brought this up. A little bit like the Princess Diana nonsense about how the royal family were behind her death. It would be a terrible way for someone to kill the president. If the CIA wanted to do it, there'd be more discreet, less a gunman from that distance, using him and bringing all these people out. They could bump him off easily if he wanted to. It's not hard. If Lee Harvey Oswald can do it, then the CIA or someone else could do it. And also, if it was the Russians, they would take the credit for it. Why would you do it? If it's a political motive, you would take the credit and say, we did this. But you don't do a political act of terrorism and then not take the credit for it. It's just...
Well, I suppose you could make that argument about Oswald himself, though.
You could, yeah.
My view is that I don't feel that there's a necessity to come down on any one potential scenario as being correct. I don't have to say it was definitely a lone gunman or it was definitely a conspiracy. I can hold the two ideas and say, it was maybe one, it was maybe the other. I don't know. There's no way to be certain. I don't think the KGB are involved. I don't think Castro's involved. I think it's most likely to be the lone gunman or lone gunman with some prodding from the CIA, which is possible.
Yeah.
But I don't have any way to come down definitively. I think the RFK assassination is far more shady than the JFK assassination.
I would agree with that, yeah.
But we'll maybe get to that in another episode. Anyway, moving on with the story. Al, at this point, is quite certain that Sam has to go through with slashing his wrist.
Yes, it's now time for this horrible deed, and reads from Oswald's diary as if it were an instruction manual, which contains lots of bad spelling, including wrist and...
This reminded me a bit of, you probably won't know about this Doctor Who episode, Blink, where the Doctor in the future is having a conversation with someone in the past by reading a transcript that was being written in the past of the conversation as they were having it.
Sure.
It was quite like that, as Al reads out to Sam what it is you have to do in Lee's own words from that night.
Sam, however, is adamant he's not going to do it, as Al describes how Oswald did do it, as we had at the top of the show in the clip there, and that he expects Olga to be shocked when she arrives in 1 hour at 8 p.m.
The two of them, however, get pause for a moment when Lee talks about a violin suddenly playing from nowhere, and when they don't hear that, they think, well, maybe things have changed.
Until it does.
Yes, which I think is enough to convince Sam that he has no option.
So he picks up a razor blade, numbs his hand or his wrists in ice water before
really quickly, doesn't he? He only puts in for a few seconds.
Yes, before sitting on the edge of the bath as Al gives him the nod and turns his back.
You can't watch, can you?
No, well, you wouldn't want to, as metal touches his skin.
However, before Sam can pierce his own artery, he leaps.
Yes, to April the 10th, 1963 in Dallas.
Sam stands in a backyard, maybe in an alley between 2 yards, holding a rifle, and hears an angry dog approaching.
He appears to find safety behind a gate, but after opening his eyes, comes face to face with a growling Doberman.
Yes, that's really unfortunate, isn't it?
From the frying pan, etc.
However, the two dogs take more interest in one another than in Sam at this point, and he's able to make his way out of the scenario.
Meanwhile, a pensive Marina is pacing in their house, holding a letter which she thrusts into his hands when he comes in. And he locks the doors. He's got sweat dripping from him. Well, I suppose you would.
Well, I would imagine in that scenario you would.
But it's very wet.
Yes. She wants to know what he was doing and why does he think he might have been taken prisoner, as he's written in this letter.
Yeah, I think he talks in the letter about her getting help from the Russian embassy if he has been captured. But he ignores this and turns on the radio.
He doesn't just ignore it, though. He shoves it back at her saying, you wouldn't be needing this now.
Yeah.
He's angry with her.
And has a flashback of him shooting a man in his home through a window, which he proceeds to admit to his shocked wife.
Yes, he's not sure whether he hit him. That's why he's got this radio. He wants to hear if it's in the news that General Walker has been assassinated.
And he claims that's why he left her the note.
Yes.
Now, the devilment oozes out of him, just like the sweat, as he states that he hasn't been caught for this because he's too smart for them.
Oh, it's always a mistake to say that, isn't it? Especially out loud.
But she's still in shock and can't understand why he would do such a thing, and does not accept his answer that Walker was a fascist, and his suggestion that it would be like killing Hitler before he came to power.
Yeah, she says you can't shoot someone just because you don't agree with their politics, but he says, in fact, you can, and he just did.
I think she tries to appeal to his human side by asking about Walker's family, and when Sam insists that he lived alone, she reminds him of his own family and the harm it will do to them, which sets off his rage, and he grabs her Sam style. That's
what I thought. Is this Sam coming through at this point?
Yeah. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe Oswald in reality was just quite a meek-mannered individual, and Sam is causing the domestic abuse. But yeah, at this point, Al appears and he witnesses the chaos.
There should be something on the radio. I buried
Killed who?
Wrapped it in that raincoat and I buried it.
Gushy? What the hell's he talking about? Mackerel, Sam, you leaped into Oswald just seconds after he tried to blow General Edward Walker's head off.
Tried. I missed.
Not you, Oswald. The bullet splintered the window and then punched into the wall just inches above Walker's head.
It was an easy shot. He was just sitting there, working at his desk. How could I miss?
You didn't miss him, Sam. Oswald did.
You don't have to yell out. I can hear you.
Presidential candidate Nelson Rockefeller's popularity
Oh,
is at an all-time low.
Better. Sam, you're scaring the hell out of me.
Rockefeller is just as loud as Kennedy.
You were acting like Oswald's mind was still merged into yours.
President Kennedy's popularity surging from the high it showed during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The White House confirmed plans for two
It is.
whirlwind
No, it can't be.
Only this time it's different.
No, but Ziggy said it would be gone.
Yeah, why would it be gone?
Well, Ziggy computed that the reason that you were leaping back and forth in Oswald's life was because the part of your mind that's in him and the part of his mind that's in you were trying to reunite.
So what did you do?
I didn't. Nothing. Ziggy figured that if we could reconnect your minds, then we could get the leap back on track. So through DNA typing, Ziggy identified, the little mesons and neurons in Oswald's brain that biologically matched yours, that we put Oswald in the accelerator and we leap those little things back to you.
You can't leap isolated mesons and neurons without drawing other neural energy with it.
More
Yeah.
neural energy.
Sucking up more of Oswald's mind. That's why this dude is different. There's more of him and me.
More? There's more?
Must admit, I didn't know much about General Walker, but after reading up on him, I don't think if Oswald had managed to hit him, it would be much of a...
Well, no, Oswald's got it here to call him a fascist as bad as Hitler.
Yeah, scumbag.
One of the worst humans to have walked on the earth, I would imagine.
Yeah, should have died.
Well, it certainly would not have been a sad occasion.
No.
But it raises questions. So Lee Oswald is motivated by his hatred of this fascist. Yeah. Why then is he turning around and shooting a Liberal president 2 weeks later, or 2 months later, whatever it is?
Could be that, like I say, he's just a lunatic.
Maybe he's just a lunatic, but then he's got this detailed plan. But his wife hands him here.
Yeah.
Let me see it. He's stalked this guy. He's got an entire dossier on where he's going to be, how he's going to shoot him.
Is this based on actual fact or Belisario fact?
Well, I believe it's based on recollections of those who were there, including his wife, who is still alive, I believe.
I think she is, yeah. But I would suggest that perhaps she has changed her opinion. There might be different reasons why she would do so. Not necessarily.
I don't know. Anyway, moving on from Edwin Walker, who Sam would have been delighted to assassinate, or at least Lee would have been delighted to assassinate.
No, Sam wouldn't have liked to.
No, of course Sam wouldn't. But in this scene, he claims he would have liked to assassinate him. He leaps, and we find him in New Orleans.
On August the 9th, 1963, he's on a street where he is handing out pro-Cuba material to a public that ranges from bemused to hostile.
Yeah, and we see a different side to him here, because he's not aggressive. He takes criticism with a smile.
Well, I think he understands that everyone is not going to simply immediately agree with him, and he understands what he's doing is it's going to be hard work.
He's able to put on this front
Yeah.
When it's suitable for him, or it suits him to do so.
Yeah, I mean, he gets into a debate with a nice looking blonde woman, and is for once able to make an excellent point by comparing Castro to Washington and highlighting the contradictions and hypocrisy that people often make when labelling political good guys and bad guys.
This is true. It's quite persuasive to her, and she is enamoured of him.
Yeah, she ends up falling for his charm, but is left disappointed when she sees a wedding ring on his finger, and he openly admits that he is married. He never said anything else. He wasn't.
No, this is her own fantasy here that she's being disabused of, and is apparently angry at him for.
Yeah. She walks off in a huff, and Sam is then accosted by some anti-Castro Cubans who unsuccessfully try to intimidate him, but end up getting arrested along with him himself.
Well, they make the accusation that Lee has tried to join their group.
Yeah.
Maybe suggesting he's an infiltrator of some kind, or a traitor to the Cuban cause. But yeah, I think this is an
American view of the...
Well, no, there certainly are Cubans like this, because this is how the Bay of Pigs went down, which would have been prior to this, obviously.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think there still are American Cubans.
Yeah, but Cubans living in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there still are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they vote Republican.
Yeah, of course.
Al shows up as a New Orleans cop, separates this guy, Carlos, from Sam, and urges him to take control before the assassination date comes around. Yeah,
it's only 3 months away, and with each leap, it's bringing him closer to that date. He is extremely agitated, and he warns him that if he leaps into the 22nd of November and Oswald is still in control, he won't be able to change anything, and therefore he must fight this inner demon.
Yes, he does at this point give his name to the cop as Lee Harvey Oswald before leaping, but not to the 22nd of November as we might have feared.
No, the 21st of November. And he arrives at Oswald's home and watches JFK on the TV giving a press conference about being in Texas.
Yeah, it's a famous speech just the night before he was killed.
And as he watches, the screen intermingles with an image of him practicing his shooting.
Not Kennedy, no. Oswald.
Yes.
Yes, we should say he's sitting with his oldest child on his lap and having some family time as this goes on.
We fade back to the next day, the 22nd, with Sam again watching the president on TV and seems to be enjoying the quips he hears from him.
Yeah, he then turns the television off and heads through to the children's room where he sees the baby and the older child that we saw him with the night before. Yeah,
he lovingly puts a cover over the infant and kisses his eldest daughter, who's, I think, sleeping next to Marina.
Yes, he then takes his wedding ring off, puts it in a teacup, and heads out to, I think, the garage?
Yes. Where he unwraps his hidden rifle and exits with it in a brown paper bag before getting into a car, telling some random guy we don't know.
I think a work colleague.
Well,
yeah,
I think
they're
that
carpooling, yeah.
Yeah. That it's curtain rods. That's what he's carrying. Why would you be
Famously.
taking curtain rods to your work?
Well, that's something that he famously did say, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
The next question should be why? You take them, you get them delivered by Amazon to your work and you take them home.
He's getting them mended or something, who knows.
Right.
We then take a bit of a turn and we head back to 1999.
Yeah, back at Stallion's Gate, where a frantic Al is listening to Gushy but isn't convinced by what he has to say.
Ziggy computes the best option under the circumstances is to do nothing.
Well, Ziggy doesn't want to make another mistake.
Perhaps, but if Dr. Beckett leaped into Oswald to uncover the conspiracy, then doing nothing is an effective course of action.
How the hell do you figure that?
Whether Dr. Beckett is himself or Lee Harvey Oswald is immaterial. Either way, you'll be there to observe, to watch the sixth-floor window, the grassy knoll, the railroad overpass. You'll see it all. You'll know the truth.
But I won't be able to stop it.
I realize that, Admiral, but you yourself said that wasn't what Dr. Beckett was leaped back to do.
Well, what if I was wrong? What if that's precisely the reason that Sam was leaped back?
Then Oswald would have to be the sole assassin.
That's right.
No conspiracy.
No. Just one angry, envious man who wanted to propel himself into infamy.
But one lone man.
I know it's more comforting to believe in plots, because if Kennedy could be killed that easily by one sicko, what hope is there for the rest of us?
Admiral, what are you going to do?
I'm going to try and find the truth.
Yeah, we've discussed that earlier on, or I certainly ranted about it.
You did.
It's like religion, isn't it? Even if you accept that there is one that's right, then most of them are by definition wrong.
I sometimes wonder whether Christianity fits the description of a conspiracy theory.
Or mental illness.
Well,
All religions.
maybe. Well.
Speaking to people up in the sky,
Yeah.
hearing voices.
We head back to Dallas, 1963. Sam and the colleague from the depository pull up outside and he is out of the car at a rate of knots.
Yeah, ignores Jim.
Whoever he is, yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we see Marina happily feed her kids and watch the news of the presidential visit, and we see live footage of the motorcade as the presenter remarks on the number of people in attendance and the surprising goodwill that's being shown.
Yeah, there had been some hostility in Dallas.
It's not like
in particular.
Not like Dallas, is it? It's going to be anti-democrats.
Well, there certainly was a lot of leaflets going in. I think there was a famous one with Kennedy traitor number 1 and all
Right.
that sort of stuff. Yeah. Anyhow, up on the 6th floor of the schoolbook depository, which is the 5th floor in the UK,
Yeah.
in case anyone's confused, Sam is setting up to shoot the president.
At the same time, Al is interrogating Oswald in the control room and wants to know if he is acting alone or not. Now, Oswald insists that he is not involved at all and doesn't even own a gun, but Al disproves this by mentioning the make and model of the two, where he kept them, and the alias that he used to order them.
Well, the alias is who Oswald tries to pin this on as if it's a separate person.
Who is it?
Oh, Alex. We talked about this last week.
Hidell. Alex
Hidell.
J. Hidell, yeah.
Oswald thinks that Marina has been talking to Al, but he's told that that's not the case.
But that she will confirm that he tried to kill General Walker and would also have tried to kill Nixon if it wasn't for her locking him in the bathroom. You see, that to me as well doesn't ring true. That sounds like something that Marina Oswald may have said later. But what, he's locked her in a bathroom? Now, bathroom locks are notoriously, anyone can open them up.
Pathetic, and they open from the inside.
If you were wanting to go and kill someone, you would not be stopped by your wife. By your wife putting you in the
A
bathroom.
wife that you beat,
Yeah.
as it's been shown on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, a kid could open a bathroom door anyway. So you weren't that determined to kill the president if that's stopping you. A very, very
Well,
small lock.
Nixon wasn't the president at that point.
So, yeah.
Anyhow, Al at this point loses his mind and goes a bit wild.
Yeah, I think Oswald asked for a lawyer. He says he knows his rights. And what does Al do?
He pulls a pistol out and puts it up against Oswald's head.
Threatens to blow his brains out.
How's that going to help? That's going to kill Sam, isn't it?
Who knows? Who knows? Back at the Oswald house, after some footage of JFK in the limo, we see Marina and a friend continue to watch the news and wonder what colour Jackie Kennedy's suit is.
Yeah, because the TV would be black and white, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yeah, good point.
So yeah, they talk about some kind of fruit colour. They're not sure exactly what. It looks like a lovely day.
Yeah. Again, this is shown that she's not particularly worried about what Oswald's doing.
No suspicion. Because he's gone to work.
Yeah, with these curtain rods.
Yeah. Well, she didn't know about that. That was in the garage.
Briefly, and back in the depository, Sam, we see, load the weapon and take aim.
Meanwhile, Al fires his weapon.
Yeah, Oswald is still trying to deny any involvement, and this shot nearly deafens him. I think it almost takes his ear off.
It also gives Sam an opportunity to take control of this particular exchange. Or the part of Sam that's in Oswald's head.
Yeah, I think he sees the reflection again.
Yeah. And Sam says to Al, I'm lying, as in Oswald is lying, acting alone, and you need to stop it from happening again.
So Al goes to Sam at the window and tries to get through to him by asking him, as we saw in the previous...
Yeah, he tries to reuse that technique. It doesn't work so well.
No, asking him about physics, but this time it doesn't work, and he continues to line up his shot.
Yes, but Al then digs into some information that Sam shared with him in the first part of the episode about his father.
Yeah, and we know that he does have this connection he's leapt into. Yeah. So this is probably the most likely memory that's going to bring him back to his senses. Yeah, he talks about his father driving the tractor on the farm.
We remember Sam telling him he remembered where he was when Kennedy was assassinated. He was being taught to drive the tractor by his father.
Precisely. And this does the trick, causing Sam to leap just before he pulls the trigger.
Well, that's inconvenient. If he didn't leap, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, he leaps into one of the Secret Service agents. I think Clint Hill, is it?
Yeah, it's one of the famous ones, isn't it? He runs after the shots have been made. He jumps in the back of the car and tries to protect the occupants.
Yeah,
a bit late for that.
When Jackie's getting the piece of skull from the back.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Al is left behind when this leap happens in the depository as Lee returns to carry out the shooting, so he's able to witness exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's a devastated and tearful Al.
Yeah. And we then fast forward to the hospital and we hear a report saying that Governor Connolly was shot in the chest and Kennedy in the head.
But that Jackie was uninjured and is at the hospital.
Now, I don't know that Connolly was shot in the chest. The story not that a bullet went through Kennedy and hit Connolly in the wrist. Maybe I misheard, because I'm sure it was the wrist he got shot in.
Yeah, but the report at the time might have been that he was shot in the chest.
Could well have been, and it might even be that that's the actual report that they're playing.
Yeah. Sam is dazed, but now seems to have rid himself of Oswald as he thanks Al for his assistance.
If you hadn't reached me, I would have shot.
No, it wouldn't have been you pulling that trigger, Sam. Not really.
And then when I had a chance to save him, I leaped. Why, Al? Why?
Oswald's mind finally reconnected, and when it did, he leaped back. And you leaped into the nearest person that could accomplish your mission.
But I didn't accomplish it.
Well, maybe you did.
I didn't save him.
No. But it doesn't look like that's what you were here to do. Ziggy thinks you were here to save her. Your Swiss cheese mind probably doesn't remember, but the first time, Oswald killed Jackie, too.
So, two things about that ending there. One, I enjoyed it. I think it was wrapped up nicely because obviously
it's quite clever.
Yeah, you know what the history is. You know how it's going to end, and you're wondering how they're going to resolve this. And I think that is quite clever. But on the flip side of that, I have an issue.
Okay.
If you're going to go to the trouble of leaping into that scenario, to that situation, and you don't save Kennedy, I don't see the worth in saving. Why you would be there just to save Jackie. And the reason for that is that, unlike other perhaps partners of famous people, she didn't parlay her influence, her power, her she could have really achieved something in her life. She married a really rich man and was known as a bit of a fashion icon. She didn't do anything. She's a bit of a disappointment. She was. Well, she was. She was. For what
she raised her kids. That's not, and she ran a publishing company.
I ran a publishing company. She was married to a billionaire. I could run a publishing company if I was a billionaire. She did not involved in human rights, as far as I can tell. She didn't set up, like, maybe look at Melinda Gates or whoever, or these other ones who have got that opportunity because of their husband. In this case, she could have done so much. She could have set up all sorts of organisations and institutions to do good in the world. She could have been she could have toured the world, been that public speaker.
I don't think that was her personality, though.
Well, exactly. And that's fine. I'm not saying.
Sam saves lots of people who don't do anything.
Still, but he was so close to saving Jay. If he can save one of them, so he leapt into that scenario. And if in the show in the past, he never touched the big stuff. It was always the smaller things that he did, or the individuals who were not famous himself. But when you leap in to the big picture, I just think that saving her, I'm like, well, why would you save her? She didn't really do anything.
Oh, I think that's a bit harsh.
No, and she had because she had opportunity. She was the most famous woman in the world. And what did she do? Oh, I'll just marry another billionaire and I'm quite happy with myself. Disappointment, that's what I'll say, a disappointment. Could have done so much more. She had the she had the means and did not bother her arse.
Well, maybe she did stuff and we don't know about it. She shouldn't put her name on it.
Well, she should have. Her name is what she's got.
Oh, she also had billions of pounds.
Did not bother her arse.
I'm not sure that's fair.
Well.
And anyway, the episode then ends on the most macabre montage I think I've ever seen on an light entertainment show, as they show shots of Jackie, RFK, JFK Jr., Caroline and the others mourning and at the funeral of JFK. It's like, yeah, Sam, here's what you didn't prevent.
Yeah.
And it ends because we don't see where Sam leaps to. Although we do see him leap out and be replaced by a still image from the day of the agent.
Yeah.
So you're happy with the resolution, yeah?
Well, I think they didn't have many options where to go, and that was perfectly satisfactory, yeah.
Why did he have to leap into all the different points in Oswald's life? Just to make a story?
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a good episode. That wasn't a good two-parter.
It wasn't a good quantum leap, let's say.
No, it was disjointed. It was contradictory to what we have been told how things work. So that's frustrating.
Well, that's what I've said here. It's the kind of thing you get when you try to use a show to make a point that doesn't fit the format.
Yeah.
He's said, oh, I didn't like that movie. I think there's another explanation. I'm going to put it in my show. Yeah. And that's not the purpose of the show. And
you know what? I think it could have been done better if it leapt into, someone less prominent in the whole situation, like one of the cop that saw, just somebody, maybe in a figure that we didn't know if it's not a famous part of it. Maybe even his work colleague.
Well, someone who did something would be quite useful. He could have leapt into Jack Ruby. And then
that's still quite a prominent.
Then murdered Oswald afterwards.
Yeah, no, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Jack Ruby's not even in it.
No.
That's one of those incidents that makes the whole thing look a little bit dodgy when he's silenced immediately afterwards. Anyway, we'll move on with some trivia, shall we? Mm-hmm. As we already know, it originally aired on the 22nd of September 1992, the same day as the other part of it. Directed by the same guy, James Whitmore. We'll call this the 10th of 15 episodes for him. Hear more about him on the podcast for Jimmy. Written by Donald P. Belisario. Hear more about him last week. Gushy appeared again. Dennis Wolfberg, 4th of his 6. Hear more about him on the podcast for Genesis Part 1 in Season 1. Carlos, the angry Cuban guy, played by James Medina. He's also in things like MacGyver, LA Law. He died in 1995 at the age of 33 from AIDS. The New Orleans cop is the only other one I need to mention from this episode.
What about the blonde?
Don't know anything about her.
So you look?
There wasn't. I mean, I looked at everyone who was in it, but there wasn't much to say.
Okay.
The New Orleans cop was played by Chris Kincaid. This was his only quantum leap. He's a former regional director of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He's appeared in things like Alpha Dog, My Sister's Keeper, and Dreaming Hollywood, as well as numerous stage appearances. There's a tenuous Columbo connection. Friend and mentee of John Cassavetes.
Ah.
And he now specialises in therapeutic body work, which involves the fine-tuning of the body-mind-soul connection.
Yeah, sure.
One of his famous clients is Woody Harrelson. He's also worked with other Hollywood megastars.
Definitely not a grifter.
He also plays the Celtic harp professionally.
Okay. Should stick to that.
Well, he makes a lot of money from the other thing.
I'm sure. Okay,
so general trivia, we already talked about the start of the part, was contrived from bits of what was originally this single episode.
So if we've already talked about it, you don't need to talk about it again.
It's
Go
a
on
bit
with it.
unusual. 2 alternative titles were considered for the episode: Leap to Judgment and Leaping on a String. Don't like them.
Rubbish.
Probably why I didn't use them. In terms of things we learned, Al's willing to use violence to get his
Yeah, sometimes you have to.
outcome. Yeah. Anything else?
Now, number ones.
Sure, you go.
I'll do it in the order of the leaps and ones that we've not already covered. August 9th, 63. The UK, The Searchers, Sweets for My Sweet, and stateside it was Little Stevie Wonder with Fingertips Part 2. 21st of November, 63. The Beatles in the UK with She Loves You, whilst in the USA it was Dale and Grace, I'm Leaving It Up to You.
Fantastic. So next week, Sam heads out to sea, where he has to get to know a young woman after their yacht is wrecked. So we will see you in 1956.
Until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.